Greetings, sentient beings. This broadcast is not intended for children. Nothing on my channel ever is. There will be probably be strong language and adult themes. So hopefully we finally have this all working.
We appear to be... I don't know if it's your end or my end, but it buffered for a split second.
Yep.
I think you're actually live this time.
Hello, everybody.
Let me
Sorry about all this. Yeah, for some reason, just my computer did not want to work with the camera, and I had promised everybody I was going to do the face reveal. I figured that was what everybody showed up for, so to not do it today just, would not have been fair to everybody.
I'm pretty sure that's what they're here for, because they were screaming "take it off" while we were dealing with technical difficulties.
Okay. So thank you for those of you who have hung around. So yes, we are finally moved into our new building in Minnesota.
Oh, there they go again. Y'all are demanding little critters. All of you did. Oh no! And now they're telling you should dance.
How late have we been? How late is it now? How long have I kept people waiting here?
I am not sure. When were you supposed to start this nonsense?
Yeah, about 45 minutes ago. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh. Oh wow, they're telling you how long they've been waiting. Like I said, they're demanding little critters.
Well, and you know what, people? Part of the problem with the setup that I was trying to get around is the fact that right now I really can barely read the side chat at all. Because
I can provide commentary.
Yeah, well, as I was explaining, for some reason my computer will not recognize the camera being plugged into it. So I've had to go back to doing this on a 12-year-old laptop that is running Windows 8 that decided to do 2 Windows upgrades before it would let me get on here, which is one of the big reasons this is so slow. But yeah, just this whole setup is really cobbled together, and yeah, I really kind of hard for me to read the text on this size screen, especially with the mask, because the mask is fitted with my old prescription lenses.
Oh no. And I accidentally closed the window with chats in it, so yay. Oh, there we go. Now I have a notification.
But thank you, everybody, and thank you to Sloth Girl for doing some crowd control for me here while I was trying to get this going.
She was the one screaming, "Take it off the hardest."
Well, I mean, I know. Well, I don't really know what she's been doing. I just know she was in the other room in the chat while I was trying to get this thing. And while I literally broke down in tears as this thing was refusing to recognize the basic devices plugged into it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It shouldn't have been. Yeah, it shouldn't have been any big deal. But last night when I set up the computer, plugged everything in, and it would not recognize the camera.
Oh.
So until I can figure that out, this laptop is the only thing I have with a functioning camera.
Blech.
Yeah, well, like I say, Windows 8.
Mm-hmm.
Windows 8 basically means that the thing was bad the day it was made.
Yeah, that's true.
So, okay.
Amiga is complaining about the fact that she is being teased.
Who is teasing Amiga?
You are. But not taking the mask off.
Oh, I will. We're supposed to build a little suspense here, aren't we?
Hey, I'm in no rush. I'm enjoying watching the crowds right now. But then again, I'm a little bit mean, so... B wants to know if you spanked the computer.
Yep. Okay, well, also, I had just sent it all out on Twitter, so I was seeing if anyone else was going to wander back here. Okay, all right. Everybody is all revved up for this.
I get to see it first because I'm in here. Haha.
You people sure about this? You know there are things you can't unsee.
I heard Sloth Girl in the background.
Yeah, actually, I've got to take off the headset in order to take off the mask.
Oh, I can say crappy things about Purple now. Aw, you cute. And
there
we have a Purple.
Okay. Was it really worth that?
Yes. You're being hard on yourself. It's a Purple. Yay.
Well, no, I don't think I look bad. Just, I don't know, about average for a man my age, I'd think.
B says you look like Willie Nelson, and I am assuming from B that is a high compliment.
Actually, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago? Yeah, I went as Willie Nelson for a costume party at a bar where we were living. And a bunch of people said I should have won, but, everything up there is... Well, everything up there is nepotism. Everybody's related to people. So basically, it's like I got the popular vote, but I think the guy that won was the judge's cousin.
That's what I have to say to that.
Yeah. So, yeah, but yeah, that Sloth Girl had braided my hair and that, and I made a little cardboard guitar.
Yes, and I'm sure you can read chat now, but the chat is now Sloth Girl is telling you to put the mask back on. I am assuming that this is because she is family and being a goofball.
Well, the mask doesn't help her much because she's got to look at it most of the time anyway. So, yeah, actually,
that is true.
She just came and shut the door because she was having a problem with hearing me talking and then hearing it on the delay.
That's what you mute the delay for. Like
she was actually hearing me in here, and she's watching it in the next room on her Xbox.
Yeah.
So.
Oh no, Amiga, don't. Amiga's like, I'm gonna donate again.
Willie's younger brother, or at least live brother anyway, right? Live counts for something, doesn't it?
Yes. It counts for a lot.
I can't do that.
Junk Shop
See, if I
Library
try to tip
says,
the laptop up so that I can actually read the text, then it sends the camera looking at the ceiling.
it says, Junk Shop Library says, someone tell Neil604 he's got some competition for best hair beard combo.
Oh,
That's-
no. Actually, this turned out to be kind of a lucky accident because I had it braided up the other day, so it looks fuller than usual. Most of the time, it lays pretty limp. I don't have nearly, I don't have half the hair Neil has. I also can't get to grow as long as it used to. See, right now.
Yeah, you told, didn't you tell
right
us
now
once
this is as long as it gets.
Didn't you used to tell us that it went down to your ass?
I had a ponytail that hung down to my belt.
Okay.
But yeah.
Not quite, but yeah.
Yeah, that I let my ex talk me into cutting it off, and she said, it's no big deal. I mean, it'll grow back again if you don't like it. Like, no, that was over 15 years ago now, and no, didn't come back.
Like, I have preferences as far as hair goes, but that's not nearly as important as like the person being happy with what they have. Like, I do prefer longer hair, but if somebody's not happy with that, then why change something like that? I don't get it. That seems weird to me. Is my aromanticism showing through?
No, yeah, she, it was kind of the thing that, I pretty much had the same style. Well, not that I ever actually had any sense of style, but had the same look for a long time. And, so she was saying I should try a new style, should try out something new and all this stuff. And it's like, that it was part of a thing because I was trying to be more social, go to social functions and that, and
that more social.
Go to parties with people and things.
It's a trap.
Yeah,
Sloth is suggesting trying to shut the blinds.
If you're indicating that as a way of helping me read the screen, no. It's simply the size of the text. It's nothing to do with glare or light level.
Yeah, and there is a little bit of a glare, but I am concerned based on what I'm seeing that if you close the blinds, your room will become too dark all of a sudden, so...
Yeah, it would be quite dark in here. We can try. Wait.
Or maybe just close them slightly instead of like...
Let's see if I can figure out how to get them to close at all now.
Doorknob Head says, now I can tell future generations I was there when Purple unmasked.
Not that I mind the dark. I'm not... Daylight's not really a thing for me.
I can't really say much about lighting because I have, like, shit lighting myself, so...
Yeah. Well, and that's, I was trying to get this up on a better display because even at the best, I'm a bit dyslexic, so reading's not one of my better things, and especially when the text starts moving.
Yeah, then it makes it worse. That's okay. I'm keeping up with the chat. Junk Shop Library says that does that make us inner circle atheists? Amiga says we are witnesses. We should start a religion now.
Yes, but are you willing to tell people what you witnessed?
I'm not.
Actually, I think most of the glare effect that you're seeing is just the monitor reflecting in my glasses.
Yeah. Yeah. It is slightly better. Like, it's not too dark in there. Critical
Yeah.
Cripple says, bloody hell, he has a beard.
Well, the shade didn't come down all the way. Yeah, I have a beard because just shaving on a regular basis, it takes too much time. That's it. I have a beard because I'm lazy. This is not anything really intentional. It's just what happens.
Okay, Critical Cripple, how can you not have imagined him with a beard when his avatar has a beard on it? Look at the avatar.
Yeah.
Look at the avatar.
I've wondered about that one because you
It's
know,
right there in the avatar, right about here.
well, and while there are a lot of recent illustrations of dinosaurs with feathers, I do not recall anybody reconstructing one with facial hair. So I thought that should have been a tip that wasn't actually, like part of the mask.
But the beard, it right there, CC. It's right there. Look at the little avatar.
I have seen the light and glare.
Martin is threatening to start printing flyers.
Yeah, that's okay. Like I said, once I'm in a decent-sized city, I'm not terribly worried about it. And I don't think I'm that recognizable anyway.
Yeah, well, it was mostly trying to keep your family from finding out what you were doing while you were still living right next to them.
Actually, it wasn't even so much my family. It was more concerned that other people in the community might not take it well, and they might kind of take it out on my family. That
Oof,
I considered there was a possibility it could have a negative impact on my siblings' careers.
People are so...
So, just being such a small town, it wasn't worth taking a chance because it wasn't the kind of place where, if you don't like your boss, you can just up and quit and get another job. It's like there weren't that many jobs to start with. So if it caused somebody a problem at work, they're pretty much stuck with it because there wasn't like another company they could go to work for.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of wish the stigma around doing YouTube stuff in general would just, die off. Because there are people who make legitimate careers off of YouTube, and they don't even do crappy stuff. Like, there are people who do, seamstress work and,
oh, yeah. Sloth Girl watches a lot of craft channels. And
yeah, there's crocheting and embroidery, and these things are all worthwhile. They're not even... And I mean, even the gaming stuff has its purposes, even though the gaming community is toxic as hell, but...
Yeah. Well, and I've used YouTube for serious tutorial stuff. When I've had to do car repairs and that, I've often found some good stuff on YouTube for those.
All right. I'm sorry, I have to be right back.
No problem. So yeah, YouTube can actually be a useful educational tool at times. And that's the thing, is that the platform's a tool. And like any other tool, it's a matter of how you use it. Tools can be used to create things. They can be used to destroy things. They can be used to hurt people. Yeah, actually, Orla, I did want to get business cards just so I could, give them out at gaming conventions. I wanted to get some business cards done up with my channel. Just so that when I go to the gaming conventions, I can hand them around and see if anybody bothers to check out what I'm doing. Although, since my channel isn't actually gaming related, I don't know. I don't know if that would really get me any more viewers. And missing a few people, but yeah, I got started late, and I also know there are a couple of other people whose audiences have a significant crossover that are also broadcasting at the same time here. Yep. So, sorry about that. The clickies aren't going where I want them to go. Hey, Hopswatch. Yeah, yeah, Hopswatch, if you saw the link on Twitter, I can send you one. Yeah, where were you? Yep. Whoops, sorry, wrong link there. That's just the view link. I've got to get the invite to come in. Okay, there you go, Hops. There's the StreamYard link. Sorry, being boring right now. I'm just trying to let people know what's going on. Excuse me. Well, sorry, Hops. Sorry.
No worries.
Forgot to click you in there.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry it wound up that we were both at least trying to start up at the same time.
Yeah, well, I'm the one who's supposed to be sorry. I had scheduled my live stream for yesterday evening, but I wasn't really up for it, as you might have seen on Twitter.
I really haven't had a chance to catch up with Twitter yet.
That's fair enough.
Well, actually, Twitter you never catch up with, so
not
realistically,
really, no.
Realistically, yeah. If you've missed more than a few hours, you're not going to catch up with it.
No, you won't. No, you won't.
Oh, and thank you again for Alias Fake Name actually showed up here in person to help us unload the truck. So he put in a good day of backbreaking work here.
So you're actually moving now, as we speak? Well,
already moved. We've got everything into the new apartments. So, but yeah, right now it's just everything stacks of boxes. So yeah, the next stage then still got to get everything set up, get everything out of the boxes and find where everything is.
I hate that stage.
Yeah, and organization's not something either one of us are good at, so I expect that's something that's going to get dragged out over a rather extended period of time. So how'd your stream go there?
Fantastic. Really, really, really good. It was a live stream with one of my friends, Shane Isgrigg, who's also the host of the Atheist Vanguard show under the ACA, Atheist Community of Austin. He had attended a meeting, an event arranged by the Danish preacher Torben Søndergaard, a so-called Kickstart event. Torben Søndergaard is the leader of the cult, The Last Reformation. So Shane shared his experiences and his impressions from what he had observed at the meeting. He had also made some interviews with some of the participants. It was extremely interesting, and it was also rather shocking what he had experienced.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of people do responses to some of Søndergaard's things, so I know who he is. Does sound like kind of a strange, scary character.
Yeah, the interesting thing about him, I think he's one of those cult leaders who actually himself believes what he's saying.
Yeah, those can be the most dangerous ones.
I mean, yeah, among those that I would believed it themselves was the one. What was his name from Jonestown?
Yeah, Jim Jones.
Yeah, Jim Jones. I think he believed it himself. If not, he wouldn't have committed suicide. Along with all the others. David Koresh is another one, the leader of the Heaven's Gate cult.
Yeah.
I think they all believed in it themselves.
Yeah, so, I think that there are those that after preaching it for a number of years, they managed to convince themselves.
Mm-hmm. And he would be one of them. I will still say he's not as extreme as the others that we have mentioned here, but he has potential to do actual harm. He has already done actual harm, and he has the potential of doing a heap more.
Hey, Pirate Kitty.
Hey,
there we go.
We should get together and play some more Minecraft.
Yeah. This stream looks like a long-haired hippie fest.
What's not to like?
I often have said that I was born 10 years too late. I should have been a teenager in the 60s because I would have made a perfect beatnik pacifist.
So how's it going?
Well, yeah, it's kind of a reprieve at this point. It's like all of the stuff that had to be done immediately is taken care of, and everything is kind of somewhere safe. But at this point, I have been in too much pain to actually do much as far as starting assembling the furniture or unpacking the boxes yet.
That's fair. I mean, as long as it's someplace where you can get to it if you need it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we did give away a bunch of stuff. Sloth Girl actually gave away her recliner and her desk to make sure that we could get everything in the truck. So, didn't have to leave anything real significant behind.
That's good. I did end up convincing my boyfriend to lose a couple pieces of furniture when we moved in together. Because he just had like 12 bookcases, and I'm like, you don't even have enough books for all of this.
Oh. Well, my fiance constantly collected books to the point that when I lived with her about 3 times a year, I wound up having to build another bookcase. To the point that she did eventually decide to give up the dining room set just so that we could just make that a library.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do for them books. Yeah, we don't have a dining room in our apartment. It's the fish room. Well, it would be the fish room if we had fish, but it's where we keep our fish tank. I'm trying to convince my boyfriend that it should become a snake tank, not a fish tank. But he's a little phobic of snakes, so that
he shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you familiar with the old British sitcom, The Young Ones?
I've seen a couple random episodes of it.
They had in the series they had these weird cutscenes which had nothing at all to do with anything in the show. And there's one of the cutscenes where this weird guy suddenly cuts into the episode and laughs evilly, then says, "I just went to my neighbor's house to borrow a drill, but he wasn't in." And he laughs again, and then he says, "So I broke in and ate his fish tank, and I wasn't even hungry."
Okay.
British humor.
Yes.
But you do that accent pretty well.
I've got my accent from watching The Young Ones at a very very young age. I think I was 9 or 10 when it was broadcasted on Danish television, and in Denmark we don't synchronize generally. So I that was where I discovered there are different ways of speaking English. There's such a thing as Danish. English accents, and the way that they were speaking in The Young Ones, I thought immediately, that's how I want to speak English. So that might have something to do with it. Then some Scots came in because I played the pipes for a lot of years. But I mean, it's pretty much a mishmash of different accents that I'm speaking. There might be a wee bit of Australian in there as well. Some American has sneaked in, a bit of Canadian. I say about much more and more. That I think I can thank Neil for that. But most important thing, I'm not speaking with a too clear Danish accent. That's the worst accent there is.
Okay, a little bit in the side about fish and fishes. And just to let people know, there actually is a difference. There is a proper use for fishes as opposed to fish. If it is a school of fish, then it is just fish. because they're all the same species. If you are talking about a tank of fish that contains several different species, then it is properly fishes.
Just like people and peoples.
Yeah. Sorry, I just saw that in the side chat, so I wanted to nitpick on that.
Makes good sense.
Yeah, my accent seems to just kind of keep mutating with where I'm at. I had lived in Minnesota for 25 years before I moved to New York. So when I got to New York, everybody there thought I was Canadian. But then I lived in New York for 8 years, and I seem to have pretty much lost the Midwestern accent. And it's just, at this point, it's just gotten so watered down that it's just kind of a generic American. It isn't even specific to any region anymore.
I wouldn't be able to tell. I mean, I could distinguish a strong South State accent from a New York accent, I guess, but I wouldn't be too sure. I mean, I can't. The only thing I can tell, for example, a Canadian accent from any American accent is the about thing.
Yeah. Well,
there's a couple of other words. Like if you want to know if somebody's from Boston, ask them to say car. Or if you want to know if somebody's from New England in general, ask them to say car.
Okay. How do they say that?
Ka.
Ka. Aha. Okay. So they don't pronounce the R.
Mm-hmm. Or you can ask them to say wash, because wash becomes warsh.
Warsh. So they pronounce a fictional R there. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yep.
They don't pronounce the R's that are there. However, they do pronounce the ones that aren't there. Interesting.
Yeah. It's one of those things we used to do to annoy my aunt because she had a thick accent. Is ask her, be like, can you go park the car? And we would really be like, car, and she'd be like, shut up. Don't pick up my accent.
Yeah, Sloth Girl gets on my sister-in-law for that because, yeah, you know, she says like getting a cup of coffee.
Coffee.
Yeah, I don't even think I can do it right, but
coffee.
Coffee is probably what it would be.
Coffee.
Yeah.
She goes to Boston to get coffee. I'm probably holding the vowels too long anyway. I think that's the biggest thing about the New England accent is there really aren't any hard vowels. Everything's all very soft.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Minnesota is on the Canadian border, so you can see where there's a lot of bleed over. And the stereotypical Minnesotan thing is, yeah, sure, you betcha.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it is kind of a mutated Scandinavian.
Oh, it is. Interesting.
Well, and that's along the upper Midwest was where a lot of the Scandinavians did wind up settling in the U.S. just because it is a similar climate.
Ah, right. Yeah, makes sense.
Well, basically, they were the only ones who could take the winters up here, so.
Yeah, makes sense to some extent.
Yeah, because, just all across Minnesota and northern Wisconsin, northern Michigan.
There are a couple of towns as far as I'm as far as I know, that where people still uphold Danish culture, though it's not really what Danish culture is anymore, and they speak a kind of Danish, I guess. I don't know if that was in Minnesota, but it could have been.
Hold on, I gotta step away just for a second here.
All right, the cat's away. What kind of shenanigans are we going to make now? Okay, Pirate Kitty, don't tell him what I did.
Hey, I can go back and I can play this back after I end it, so I'll find out. Oh, but yeah, actually, right now I'm sitting on Sloth Girl's bed with the laptop because for some reason I never got to normal postures. I don't like chairs. Sitting in a chair with my feet on the floor always hurts my back. So that's my normal setup before was I had my computer hooked up to the big screen TV and just sitting in my recliner with my cross-legged with the keyboard in my lap. Which was sometimes a problem with the kitty, and that's I literally often had to balance my keyboard on the cat's back in order to type.
You do warmth for the cat. It probably didn't even care.
We came to an agreement on it. He got a little annoyed about it initially, but he decided that was better than not being able to lay in my lap. So, he made his choice there. There was enough room in the chair that he could have laid someplace other than my lap, but...
I'm not going to dance. I dance horribly. There's someone in the chat who's suggesting that. That's horrible. And they want me to sing as well. Yeah, occasionally I sing on my channel. Are you familiar with the Danish band Laid Back?
No.
They had a couple of hits. They actually had a couple of world hits. Sunshine Reggae, for example. Sunshine, Sunshine Reggae. Oh no, now they made me sing.
Yeah, I have no musical talent. I can't dance. My fiance said that I am proof that white people have no rhythm.
I've over the years trained myself to where I almost can't sing when I have headphones on. Because before I moved in with my boyfriend, he used to host a TeamSpeak server from his computer.
Oh.
And I would get on the TeamSpeak, and I wasn't using push to talk at the time because it was usually just him and I. And so I would sit there, waiting for him to come home from work and just playing our video game together, just tooling around in it, listening to music, and I would start singing. And then he would do creepy things like message me in-game with the words I was just singing. Because he would sneak home, get to the computer, and listen to me, and then type in the words. And then one time, he knew I was going to be home alone. My parents went to North Carolina to visit with their cousin. And I'm sitting in the Discord or the TeamSpeak, and at 3 a.m, he comes in and he goes, "Arr!" and scares the living daylights out of me because I was home alone, had no reason to be expecting a noise like that.
Yeah, Doorknob said he can do a dying moose impersonation. Yeah, if I try to sing, it definitely sounds like something is dying, but... Mostly it's a matter of I can't stay in one key for any period of time. It just constantly jumps around.
Atria.
Hey, I'm
Hello.
sorry I had to exit so quickly.
No, it's okay.
But I'm glad other people jumped in.
Yep. Well, Hops had been running his stream at the same time this one was supposed to start, so he came over after he finished his.
Hey, Hops, watch.
Hey, Atria.
Oh.
I don't know whether or not live chat is still trying to catch up from me being gone, or if they're really going that fast. I can't read it. Send help. Oh wait, there it goes. It stopped.
Yeah.
I broke it. Yay.
Inevitably I wind up when I'm in live streams that it does some buffering and lags behind, so then I have to crank it up to 1.5 speed for a while for it to catch up.
Yeah, it was doing that for me for a while too, which is really weird when you're trying to run your own live stream.
I imagine that's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I'm hoping that's not what's going to happen on Thursday night. Although Thursday night should be fun. I made the mistake of inviting a pagan, so the tech's all going to break.
Which pagan?
Callan.
Oh.
Yeah. And also, I'm not technical in the first place, so that's going to be fun.
What are you guys talking about?
I'm talking about the changes in the Mormon handbook.
That's right. I saw the announcement for that. I didn't know Callan was former Mormon.
No, she's not. But here's the thing. My only trans contacts are all still Mormon.
Oh.
And since I am an apostate and they're cracking down on being around apostates, I did not want to put them in further danger by inviting them onto my stream.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So, I'm sorry. I totally derped on that. Yeah, of course. I mean, you're talking about the Mormons trans.
Yeah.
So Callan would be a good choice for that. Duh.
Yeah. And I do have an ex-Mormon friend who is trans, but she tends to have a live stream at the same time that night. And so timing wasn't going to really work out. But yeah. But in fact, as much as I hate doing this, I might have to pull away from some of the people that I've been interacting with just to keep them more safe.
Yeah, I was trying to help.
But yeah.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Trey. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
It's okay.
So that sounds pretty heavy. What kind of repercussions would the Mormons church hit these people with?
The biggest one is losing your temple recommend, which in Mormon culture, if you don't have if you're not worthy for your temple recommend, you're not eligible to go to the highest level of heaven, and you lose your family essentially, and you're because the Mormon Church teaches very heavily that you keep your family in the afterlife, but only if you follow all the Mormon rules. Is the easiest way to kind of explain that. And so when they lose their temple recommend, they wind up, the thought process for them is, I'm going to lose my family in the afterlife.
Oh.
And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes that's not. It depends on everybody's situations and stuff like that. Also, I don't know if they're going to start doing this, but this looks like what they're about to start doing is I think they're trying to make it. Hey, there was a Randolph and then he left.
Oh.
Hey,
Hey.
Randolph.
That's
Oh,
just
yeah.
my mouse is being erratic, and sometimes
But-
it double clicks when I try to single click.
Whoops.
Oh.
But they're not doing it yet, but I think they're traveling down the path of if you hang out with apostates, you also get public restrictions put on you.
So they're going
I
the
don't-
way of the JWs then, basically.
Yeah, and
I heard
like I said,
that.
and also if you don't have your temple recommend, you also miss out on going to weddings, and there's some other
I don't know if I
things
can get this.
that are. Yeah, think for yourself.
Good
There,
post.
if I can get this in there.
But
Yeah.
That's
I-
I
an
wanted to
Little
do it
more
for
to
backdrop,
your
but it didn't work
left.
out.
lift it up a little bit. The bottom's cut off with your name tag.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't quite back it up far enough from the camera.
Oh no, you're doing fine. You're
There we
back.
go.
Fine, yeah.
You
Yeah.
just got to go up a little higher, and then the bottom won't be cut off. There, perfect. Now we can see the whole thing.
But yeah,
Okay.
I've been strongly wondering if even though I want to help, if I'm causing more harm than help. And if I come to the conclusion that interacting with certain people will cause them more harm than helping them, I am going to back off.
Yeah.
I hate doing it, but that's a lot of the people that I talk with say that if they lose their temple recommends, it might end in divorce for them. And a lot of them live in Utah, and
That's
getting
tremendous
divorced. Yeah, and I don't want to add to that. Like,
You know,
I
like-
will give them I will let them know how I feel and give them the option, but if I get the general please back off stuff, I will, as much as I hate it.
Yeah.
There's a slogan that I'm promoting. It's people are more important than ideas. And I think this whole idea of religion and all its divisive aspects, where it divides people, is a major problem in society. And what you're talking about exemplifies all these problems that come up. People can't live honestly with who they are. They can't act in a certain way or associate with certain people. Otherwise, they get ostracized by their in-group that they think they're in. It raises the question, are you really in that group if these arbitrary requirements are a part of it? It's really...
I lean towards no on that in most cases.
Yeah.
Especially with the attitude of we accept you, but we don't accept you, which is what is happening with a lot of different things. Another thing that I am looking at is I am still living with my Mormon family, and I'm kind of pissed that the church would judge my family members by the fact that I've left a church that I find abusive.
The church doesn't care. They care more about their ideas. They care more about the religion.
Yeah. They care more about keeping everybody in control. Yeah. But the thing is that I know my dad will not kick me out. I know that is always, every time they've told him that he has to, he's basically told them different polite versions of shove it.
Good.
So I'm not worried about that. However,
well, you're one of the lucky ones that your dad is willing to stand up for you. I'm sure there are many people in the church that can't expect the family members to do that.
I know people whose family members are basically... I think it would be better if their family members considered them dead to them in a lot of respects.
Well, but, hey, mine isn't nearly that extreme, and I consider 300 miles to be a safe distance from my family.
Yeah, the thing is
I only have one person in my family who's really what you would consider religiously extreme.
And I get a lot of people who tell me I let my dad off easy, and in some ways I might. But the thing is that the main reason he still goes is because they have him convinced that if he goes and follows all the rules, he gets to keep his marriage with my mom. And the man adored my mother. He worshipped her.
Well,
that,
and
like,
I can certainly get that, you know, that if I had maintained a belief in the afterlife, because when my fiance died, that was the main thing that everybody tried to comfort me with was this, you know, that you'll be together again when you're in heaven. And,
yeah.
you know, and
They've
yeah,
got him
I can see
convinced
that.
the only way he can
Yeah.
keep that is to keep going to that church.
Yeah.
I've worked on trying to get him to see otherwise, and I'm still trying. But that is the main reason why he goes, is because he's like, I want to keep my wife, I want to keep my children,
Yeah.
and not in a possessive property kind of way, but in a, you know, it's not heaven if I don't have them, is essentially how it is for him.
Yeah.
And I'm worried that with these new rules that they're going to take away his temple recommend and how much that's going to hurt him. And yes, I know it's a choice, but when you've been conditioned as harshly
it's still
as
going to
you
have a psychological impact.
Yeah. And he's been conditioned to think that way from a very young age. So it's difficult, and I'm hoping that that's not what they do, but I see it as a real possibility, and that is going to cause him a lot of pain.
Yeah, no, I can certainly see that could be very traumatic for people. Like I said, you know, I've been through that of, you know, losing the person I was ever the most attached to, and you know, it's like at the time I wasn't identifying as an atheist. I think it was kind of like internally I'd given up on everything, but I was still kind of holding on to the vague sense that there was still something spiritual.
Yeah, it was weird for me because I hear people's atheist coming out stories, and it feels like they listened to some of the skeptics like Dawkins and Hitchens and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just hard for me to relate to, because once I got shattered by Mormonism, one day I just kind of woke up and was like, I guess I'm atheist now.
Like, well, that's, you know, by the time I was a teenager, I had given up on the Bible because there were just too many difficult questions and too many contradictions I couldn't come to any terms with. Even after giving up on the book, I felt that there, you know, was still something greater out there that we needed to connect with. So, you know, that's even after giving up on the Bible, I was pagan for about 25 years.
Well, that's something that I was trying to bring up with a conversation that they were having about indoctrination on Twitter. And I said, yeah, you weren't indoctrinated to be a pagan, but you were indoctrinated to be religious.
Yeah.
And aside from like Mormonism and Jehovah's Witnesses, where they're like literally sitting there teaching you, why other religions are wrong. Excuse me. I've been eating while I was muted. And, it's not uncommon, and it's something that I've seen a lot in atheists, is that when your religion isn't an extreme version, and I'm talking really extreme, you know, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, Scientology, whatever, the people do sometimes tend to try and keep religion. Like, they may realize the Bible is BS or whatever, and then they'll filter on through to Hinduism and paganism and Wiccan and all that stuff. But you don't just, it falls away in stages. You don't just break indoctrination in just one step and be like, oh, I don't believe any of it anymore. You have to work through it. And you start off by realizing, hey, this is wrong, but maybe this is okay. And then you stay at that for a while, and then you go down another stage, and then you're like, okay, that's not really true, but maybe I still believe in karma. Maybe the universe is still going to make things right. You know, that kind of thought process.
Yeah, for me, for the longest time, it was I don't trust authority figures in religion, but there's still a God, was something that I believed in for a very, very long time.
That was pretty much what I held to, that I didn't think there was really a problem with religion. I thought the problem was with organized religion, or actually, the way Joseph Campbell put it in one of his books was, religion is what happens when spirituality falls into the wrong hands. So I came to define religion as being a spiritual system that had a bureaucracy built around it.
Yeah, and for me, it was, and a lot of the reasons why I left were because, well, I had traumatic events, but there were things that also kind of led up to it that made me question things. I often saw the decisions that, it's a kitty.
Yeah, Kitty's come and settled in my lap now.
But
Yes, Sammy-san.
I would often see the decisions that leadership would make that were supposedly God-inspired, and just kind of shake my head and be
I
like,
could make a better decision than that, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Kitty babies.
And that, yep, there is Soft Girls Kitty Petunia back here.
Petunia's like, well, why you pet me? I was sleeping.
Yeah.
But yeah, there would often be like, how in the hell is this God inspired? Like, it's God inspired for my little sister to be told that she's supposed to work in the kitchen during the Pioneer event because she can't do all the walking all day.
Yeah.
Like, I'm supposed to believe that you were inspired by God to tell me that that's how it should be?
Well, I do remember specifically, the key thing, that was the final thing that put me off of the Bible, was when I was 14, my brother gave me a Bible for Christmas. So I decided I was going to read it cover to cover, a couple of chapters each night. And the thing that completely put me off it was when it got into Leviticus and was giving the rules for the temple, and was saying that, anyone who was maimed or deformed could not come into the temple.
And there's something in the New Testament too that says something similar.
And it hit me. It's like, okay, so the people who are crippled or have a handicap, the people who need God's help the most, are forbidden from going into his house.
Yeah.
And this is supposed to be an all-loving God. How do you make sense of that?
Yeah, and I need to find the Bible verse that says that you're not supposed to bring disabled people to the church, because there is one in the New Testament as well. Because you get the old argument, and it's so contradictory. But I have to say that, if you're gonna like cherry pick, good on you for cherry picking the shitty parts out. But they a lot of times they'll be like, well, that's just Old Testament, and I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I read a verse in the New Testament that says something almost exactly the same. And I was like, and you're talking about one of the people who I care about most in my entire life, and saying that they don't deserve to be at the place that they want to worship. They don't deserve to be there with their God.
Yeah.
And that's bullshit to me. That is complete another bullshit. And I've also noticed that people will hide a bit of ableism behind that particular verse, because it's like, and it's not something that they realize that they're doing, but it's kind of written in there and it's subconscious. That's another reason why I left a lot of religion behind, is they say that they're all inclusive and they're loving, and then you come across queerphobia and, gender roles problems and the ableism and and it's not all inclusive. You can claim it is, but even the best groups have their problems that they really should be working on.
Well, honestly,
Well,
I would not be so comfortable with my sexual identity if anybody had ever bothered to talk to me about it. But it was like, by the time it ever got mentioned to me, it was kind of too late. I'd already experienced it before anybody talked to me about it. So it's like, yeah.
Well, I think part of the problem with what you're saying is that sometimes they just don't realize it's an issue. Like there's an echo.
I don't think it's on my end. Or is it?
I don't know. It stopped.
Yeah, it came in rather suddenly.
Randolph. The echo was when Randolph came in. He's muted now. And smiling at us. Sorry, Randolph.
Sorry about that. No, I didn't intend to create an echo here. I don't have video running in any other tab or anything. This is the only web browser tab I have open. So I'm surprised there's an echo.
I don't know.
Echo.
Sometimes it just happens if your mic is too close to your speakers.
Yeah.
I don't hear it.
So what were you saying, Pirate Kitty?
I said sometimes they don't realize, like you know, you talk about ableism, like they don't know that that's in the Bible. Do you honestly think that the rank and file Christian has read that the Bible says that lame and crippled people cannot enter the temple and therefore cannot get to heaven? They don't know that. They don't read that. They skip that. Or not that they skip that. It's that's not something that is taught.
Sorry, Pirate K, was that your boyfriend saying about water sharing?
No, he was telling me to be quiet because I was getting loud.
And the thing is that they don't realize it because they might not necessarily read it, but it's kind of baked in with a lot of the attitudes that come with it. And it's difficult because we've got it in our heads that if somebody calls you out on one of the isms, they mean you're a bad person. And that's not. And that's something that I really feel like we should get away from, because all of us have been taught crappy shit.
Yeah.
We all have something in our brain that is a little bit off, that we've been taught as normal or taught as okay, that really isn't. And, you know, we all slip up. It's what you do with the slip-ups and how you handle them that we should really be focusing more on.
And actually, in my mid-20s, you know, after I'd been living away from home for 6 or 7 years, I had a couple incidents hit me that showed me that I had internalized a lot more of my dad's racism than I was ever aware of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and my dad wasn't really like an extremely racist person. It's just where he grew up, there weren't any people of other races. So, you know, it wasn't a real intentional thing on his part. But, you know, he had pretty much been taught the attitudes like, you know, Mexicans were lazy and things like that.
You know, here in Canada, we even had some stuff going on in the 70s and 80s where 1970s, 1980s, where people in Quebec were talking about separation. It turned out it was mostly the politicians talking about that, and only in English. It's and all in French. They didn't really talk about that. They talked about how great everything is to get elected there, and because we're a bilingual country, French and English, and so a lot of the people in Quebec at that time didn't know English. So the politicians were safe to say the stuff without having to worry about people knowing how to translate it. And so this built up quite a bit of resentment with a lot of people here in the West. And because we didn't really, not very many people here knew French. And it was interesting. People say, oh, they want to separate, but they want to take a bunch of money with them. And there was a divide starting to form. That divide is gone now because people with the internet are learning more English. And there's also more French immersion activities in the educational system here. So the politicians can't get away with it. And I know people who've left Quebec and remember those times saying they couldn't believe it. Politicians will say all this in English, and they won't talk a whit about it in French. And then when they tell their friends who only speak French, their friends don't believe it.
Because,
yeah.
Well, I remember, that being in the news about Quebec having a referendum about separating and that.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the rest of it, like you're saying, about the politicians, playing it like that. I didn't know anything about that part of it until I got on the internet and I was, being in chats with people in Canada on a regular basis.
Yeah.
See, I think part of what you just said, Tria, is that I think we need to move away from using the words racism and like transphobia.
I'm not necessarily no, I'm not against using the verbiage. I'm against. I want to change what the verbiage means.
Yeah,
I think it's too late for that. Honestly, I think we need new verbiage.
The thing is that there's a huge problem, especially, and this is from my background and my experience, is when people tell me, "Oh, you can't use the word aphobia." Most of the time, it's because they're trying to prevent me from making things better and to keep me quiet. And so that's why I'm a little bit hesitant to be like, we need to change that verbiage, because sometimes it becomes necessary. And
right.
I'm very, very, very hesitant to do that, because then you start taking away communication tools from people who actually need it.
Exactly. And look at the word Islamophobia.
What you're doing, but hold on. What you're doing is when you say somebody's being transphobic, people don't think little minor things are transphobic. Like when you say transphobic or homophobic, they're thinking like string up the gay kid to the fence type stuff. And they're thinking, Ku Klux Klan lynching black people when you say racism. They're not thinking about, well, I just boyfriend yelling at me about my volume again. And I think we need a verbiage that is, you're saying something that's problematic, but I don't think you're evil. Because when people start jumping straight into saying that's transphobic or that's homophobic, the people who are not in the know are hearing you're evil, and that shuts them down. And if your goal is
but that's the thing is that the needs of that person who's causing the harm then becomes more important than the needs of the person who needs the change.
And one of the problems too, as these words keep getting misused and misdefined, the language becomes more muddled and less clear. And we see like the word Islamophobia. Islam is the idea, a phobia is an irrational fear, and yet it keeps getting misunderstood as meaning a hatred or something. It's when it's really not, but then people use the words in different ways and it creates a lot of confusion. I even see this with the word atheism. Some people think it means that you hate God, and no, that would be mesotheism. But people are doing this. So I think what would be better is to strive to get clarity in the language and having the words having a meaning that actually makes sense, consistent with linguistic structure as much as possible where we can, and then create new words as we need to for different things. But if we keep changing the definitions of things, the other problem that creates is when people read things that are written today and the meaning of the word has changed a lot, then it makes it much more difficult to understand down the road.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, the point that I'm making is like, are you more interested in changing someone's opinion, changing someone's mind, and making them an ally, or are you more convinced, or are you more concerned with I'm not sure what the opposite of that.
Yeah,
would be.
but the thing,
Well, I think it's important to do it honestly, and having accurate terminology is an important factor in that. Because if we're going to get them on our side by using terminology incorrectly, are we really doing it honestly then? Is this
and
the
also
right
another thing is that there are times where allies do feel dogpiled, and they rightly feel so, and there are other times where they don't take criticism no matter how you present it to them.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, you're fucking causing harm. If you are an ally, you should be listening. Now, does that mean you should put up with abuse? No, I'm not asking you to put up with abuse. However, if I'm having a bad day and you have caused me hurt, I shouldn't have to tiptoe around you to make you feel goody-goody about your allyship. Now, I'm not trying to alienate you, but I also need you to understand you got your foot on me. Please remove your foot.
Yeah, reasonable assertiveness is important.
There's a give and a take to both situations, and I have watched people who claim that they are allies be asked to do differently, even kindly, politely. And they're like, no, I'm an ally. I get to do what I want because I say I'm an ally. And I mean you well.
Yes.
And you can mean somebody well and cause them immense pain. This is something that I personally have to deal with on a regular basis in my own life, because I consider myself an ally to LGBTQ plus Mormons, but if I am causing them harm in my allyship, I need to fucking do better.
Yeah. I'm
And
sorry, I
that's
have to
where
go. I
we're
have an
coming
emergency call here. So thank you very much for the chat. I wish I could stick around more. This is a great topic.
Well, thanks for coming in.
Randolph.
Goodbye.
We'll catch you later.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I want to make clear, I'm not advocating for people to put up with abuse or anything like that at all. That is not my intent. It's just sometimes, no matter what you do, some people are just gonna be like, well, I'm trying to help you, and that's all that counts. And it's really not the situation. And I
that's
think
fair. I think it's something that it needs to be dealt with more on a personal level. Like if it's somebody because
and if it's somebody I know who's fucking up, I have a tendency to go into DMs and be like, hey, I don't want to publicly call you out, but X is happening. Here's why I'm saying this to you. Because here's the thing. You can change an individual's mind, maybe if you're nice to them, but sometimes to get systematic changes, you have to be a little mean.
Oh yeah, but I mean, when you're talking on the grand scheme of things, yes, sometimes you do. But I'm talking about in a situation where, like, an example that I use is Little Miss Midwest, who's never left home, never seen a person lighter than a white sheet, like really not diverse, and they've heard that Black people like chicken and watermelons, for example, right? And so they have a new person come to town, and so they hear, oh, well, I've heard that they like this, I'm going to make this for them, and then they get called a racist for it.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing where I find it's problematic, is that somebody who really isn't trying to do harm to anybody, who's just not informed, getting tagged with the racist label or the homophobic label or whatever, and then either shutting down or like stopping any attempt to be an ally.
Yeah, and I can understand where that can hurt, especially because I've been called out, and there have been times where my first instinct is to kind of shut down. But I feel like it would actually be more beneficial if somehow we worked to remove the evil label away from those things. It might take longer, but it doesn't take away people's ability to be able to call things out. Because if we start taking words away from people to call things out, then how are they supposed to call it out?
Yeah.
Because I deal with that on a regular basis. I've been told that I'm not allowed to use the word aspec, even though nearly the entirety of the autistic community says that was coined by an autistic asexual who said that they coined that term so that we could talk about asexuality being a wide spectrum of things, not this black and white stuff that people try to push.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have people telling us that we can't use that word because it's ableist, even though that was the word we coined for ourselves. That was a word that we used to say, hey, this is what we are. But people try to silence you by saying, hey, you can't use that word.
Well, that's the problem we're
Why?
having
I'm
now.
trying to
The problem with YouTube and Twitter is that they're going by keywords and they're blocking things because of keywords without any idea for whether you're speaking for or against something.
Well,
Mhm.
and the thing is that to a certain degree, that's necessary for some people. But as with all things, you have to find the right balance for you to where you see what you need to see, but you're also not bombarded. For instance, unfortunately, right now, I have the words Greta Thunberg blocked on Twitter
Mhm.
because of the new incident with her. Because somebody decided that they needed to show the pictures. And I am repulsed.
The
And got to a point.
tattoo, the energy drink thing or the sticker thing.
The sticker thing, yes.
Okay, I know what you're talking about then.
And I was put out of commission for not nearly as long as normal, but long enough to where I could not function. And I realize it's the internet, and I realize I'm going to see things that I don't like, or I'm going to come across things I don't like. But if I get to the point where I'm not functional, I have to provide those safety blocks for me to be able to continue to function.
Right. And it's good that they provide the tools that you can do that personally.
Yeah, I don't think that's what Purple's talking about, honestly.
Yeah, but
I think Purple's talking about like I'm not sure how good of an example this is, but Sarah Michelle and Anti Ordinary refer to themselves with a word that I will not say, and they've been banned for referring to themselves with this word. And it's,
yeah, that's too much.
And
because
that's what he's talking about is if I'm using the word for myself and somebody reports my tweet, there's no concept of context and they get banned for it.
Yeah.
That's because
basic things like like YouTube. If you put LGBT in the tags, YouTube will automatically demonetize the video.
Mm-hmm.
So
even
people who are gay or lesbian cannot put LGBT in the tags of their own videos.
Oh, right, yeah.
And asexual is probably another one.
Yeah.
Which, go look at my videos, see how many of them have asexual in the title. Not just the tags, but the title.
Right.
Yeah, so you can't even be supportive of the community without getting blocked.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That's shitty. I really feel for Kate. Because Kate apparently just existing Bionic Dance. Kate apparently just existing pisses off YouTube.
Yeah, she's complained about that quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
she's a prime example of that.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't saying she's complaining as like a negative. I meant it as like legitimate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, basically, everything she puts on YouTube is demonetized because it either hits LGBT or it hits atheist, and either one of those, YouTube at very minimum will never promote those videos if they don't automatically demonetize them.
Yeah, and one of the bigger advertisers, and I don't get a lot of advertisements because, yay, the algorithm's actually working for once, but one of the biggest advertisers on YouTube is the Mormons. So all of my ex-Mormon videos will not ever be really promoted.
Really, that almost seems weird to me, considering how many times I've seen like PragerU and basically the antitheist. You know the word that I'm trying to say because I can't seem to say it. Like PragerU as an ad on an atheist video or an advertisement, and it's just like it seems weird.
Well, the thing is again, we're talking about how they're cracking down on apostasy, and they probably at this point would not put the advertisements on my videos, but they seem to be moving away. The Mormon Church seems to be moving away from putting money in where ex-Mormons are at because they feel like they've already lost them. They tend to put them where people are looking for the Mormon Church, but not through apostate channels. Because I do get advertisements for the Book of Mormon, but it's usually when I'm on a website that is pro-Mormon.
Right.
And yeah, unfortunately, I do have to spend time on pro-Mormon websites. It bites. Don't do it.
Well,
don't.
Yeah. You know, if you're going to do honest research, you've got to look at websites that talk about both sides of it.
Even though I know that side like the back of my palm.
Yeah, but one of the things you know about that is that they change it. So if you don't go and read it every couple of years, they could have edited it to say something different by now.
Oh yeah.
No, that's the part that really I just cannot wrap my mind around is the part where they'll just randomly change things and people don't care.
Yeah. That's the thing I wonder about. The people who have, been in the church for like decades or, even 2 or 3 generations. And then the church elders decide that, yeah, well, all this that was in the pamphlets we printed 10 years ago, yeah, that doesn't count anymore. And everybody just goes along with it?
Because you're taught from a young age that the prophet is the word of God. And so whatever prophet is currently speaking to God that's how you roll. And it doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong, you just roll with it. I remember a song.
Yeah, but if it's the word of God, it shouldn't matter who it's being passed through. It should still be consistent.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. Y'all are applying logic to a different logic to a situation. One that I agree with, and the conclusions I came to were similar. However, one of the first songs that I learned was basically telling you to follow the prophet no matter what he said. It didn't matter what the prophet told you to do. You did it.
And I
the chorus is basically follow the prophet over and over again. Imagine little 3-year-olds repeating over and over again the chorus, follow the prophet over and over and over. Just those words.
Well,
multiple times.
I can get what you mean because I started out in the Catholic Church and I, kind of remember some of the songs they taught us in kindergarten.
Yeah. I was taught, you're taught from a very young age that if you disagree with the prophet, you are disagreeing with God.
Wow.
But God,
that is one of the reasons why. Guess how many people in this conversation are going to hell? And just between the 4 of us, guess how many?
Just you, according to them, because you've betrayed the prophet.
Because I decided I know better than God, and how dare I?
Is that because we can't know? Or I can't know because I was never a Mormon?
Yeah, you were never a Mormon. So you get a level of heaven. You don't get top tier heaven with all the rewards, but you get a level of heaven.
Wow, that's kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Oh, kind
Yeah.
of.
So
I mean, no
you
kind about
can,
it.
Hopswatch, you can go out and do some horrendous things and you still get a level of heaven. I
Wow.
get to go to outer darkness because I apparently know better than the prophet does. Even though I was raised to believe the prophet and all, because I was taught that he was God's mouthpiece, and therefore I know better, so I get punished.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That's one of those
Okay.
things that I've never understood about Christian missionaries is that there's this idea that if you don't know about God, you go to heaven. Like,
Mhm.
but so why the hell are you going around telling people about God if
Well,
you run the risk of them rejecting it and then going to hell?
in the case of Mormonism, sorry for interrupting, but there is actually a built-in some logic into Mormonism, as far as I can see. Because if you're told you're actually eligible for a higher level of heaven than those who have never heard of it. So
Well, and
those.
here's the thing: there's also a piece of Mormon doctrine that I don't think exists in any other denomination, and if somebody knows that I'm wrong, please tell me because I'm interested and fascinated by it. But let's say that for whatever reason you've heard about Mormonism, but you decided not to go for it. So you haven't accepted God in the sense of you haven't accepted his prophet, which is, means you get a lower level of heaven. However, they believe that after you die, if you didn't accept Mormonism, you get sent to a place of teaching where they teach you God's correct ways, and you get another chance to say yes. And if you say yes, you get to go up to a higher level of heaven. The only people who do not get any form of heaven are people who believed and don't believe anymore.
It's interesting how Mormonism, which is a relatively new religion, is taking a lot of the criticism directed against religion in general into account when they construct their theology.
They do, but the thing is that it's some of these things wouldn't be that harmful. Some of their ideas wouldn't really be all that harmful if they didn't have all the obedience, culty stuff behind it. Because you're right, there are some things where they said, "Hey, this doesn't make sense in Christianity in general, so let's make it make a little bit more sense." Would a loving God send 3/4 of the earth to hell? That doesn't make sense. So let's create these heaven tiers. Most everybody gets to go to heaven. But, Mormons have this superiority thing going on where it's like, well, yes, a Christian does get to go to heaven, but they don't get all the shiny things we do because we're Mormon and we know better.
Right. Okay, I have to quit it here. I have a dentist appointment early in the morning.
Ew.
Yeah.
Ew.
Thanks for coming in.
A root canal of all things. Wonderful.
Ah.
Okay, I'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Nice to have talked to you.
Yep.
Bye,
Thanks for coming in.
Yep,
We'll catch you later.
Thank you for
I'll
having me.
have to go and watch the rerun of your stream later tonight.
Cool. Well, see ya.
Yeah, Global Mom says, I enjoyed it, but I was a convert and I didn't hold with some of what the church believed. I questioned the Bible, the Book of Mormon, and God when I needed because I have free will. I can't speak to what conversion is like because I grew up in it. For me, that was my environment. That was the only thing I knew. And I didn't have challenges to that until I got older. And also I have a tendency to process things slightly differently. sometimes. So it took me a good long while to see the cracks. The 3 tiers, Global Mom says, I forgot what all 3 tiers of heaven are called, but I know celestial is the highest. It's celestial, telestial, and then terrestrial. And I don't remember the order. I think it's been a long ass time.
Yeah, the tiers of heaven thing is something I find just kind of weird. Like I said, I started out with the Catholic Church, and for a while I was going to a Methodist church. It's like I think that's pretty unique to the Mormons as far as the tiers of heaven. And it's like every time you talk about that, I'm thinking like, okay, so the Methodists are going to like discount heaven?
Yeah, pretty much everybody except for the and some Mormons are actually going to a discount heaven too.
Yeah.
Because there's a bunch of rules you have to follow. And I've actually been wanting to get onto it, but unfortunately one of my Patreon perks is I let everybody vote on what they want to hear about. And unfortunately, they never seem to want to vote on like the Mormon doctrine stuff, which makes it difficult for me because I can only put out a certain amount of content every month due to how my life runs. And so, like, I've actually been wanting to talk about the plan of salvation for months, but every time I'm like, hey, I can do plan of salvation for y'all, they're like, no, which is fine. I'm not complaining. I'm not telling them that they have to. It's just like, I keep hoping one of these times they'll be like, yeah, that sounds interesting.
So you know what you do is spread it out over a couple of months and make it a bonus. So, like, 1 month, maybe you work on part of the script a little bit, not much. Maybe it takes you 6 months. And then 1 month, you're just like, oh, guys, you guys want me to talk about this? Okay, here's this. And then a week later, be like, bonus video. Here's the since y'all mother won't let me talk about this. Hey, I did it for free.
Yeah. I mean, and I have a side project. I'm still working on the HSDD thing. It was much more involved than I thought it was, and I was like, I could do like the short version, but I really kind of want to make it into a series, and that's also part of why I don't have time for it. Is I basically that I do 10-minute videos. Like the longest video I have is 15, and that felt almost too long for me. That the HSDD thing, the hyposexuality disorder, that's probably going to be 2 hours worth of video. Not all at once, but that's about the length that I'm thinking it's going to wind up being. And I will cut it down to my usual 10, but like all of that research is sitting at my desk. And like I said, I thought that this was going to be like a simple project.
Yeah.
It has not been. And I'm still getting resources. I'm still getting because there are certain parts there are certain parts of it that are non-existent on the internet anymore. There are no primary sources anymore. So I have to look up what secondary sources actually talked about the incident. Which has thrown me for a major loop. But yeah, I have multiple projects going on right now, which is really odd for me because usually I try to only work on one thing at a time. But I have the HSDD thing. I have the I think my patrons wanted me to do like positive asexuality rep. And then I have everything I need for Thursday night stream, but I do need to review it because I haven't looked at it in a week, and I'm sure I'm going to forget something. But yeah, it's once the HSDD project is done, I am most likely going to go into Plan of Salvation because that is the biggest and hardest thing to explain to non-Mormons. People who have never had any contact with the church. And it's huge. Like, they have mythology about the premortal existence and like all kinds of different things dealing with that. They have the war in heaven, but there's more. They have more details around that don't line up with other Christian sects. So yeah, it's something I want to do. I just haven't gotten around to it. And maybe next time on the poll, just for funsies, I should just put Plan of Salvation as all 3 options and see how they react.
Or put Plan of Salvation and then put like okay, I have to Google because let's see.
Maybe you could talk them into that instead of people just voting on things. You do like they do on movie night, and they just put it on a wheel and give it a random spin.
So what?
Yeah, well, the thing is that that's one of the few perks I offer. I'm not very good with perks because a lot of the suggested perks are usually, hey, give exclusive content just to your patrons.
Right.
And I'm like, but I do education, and if I do exclusive content, then I'm basically limiting it to the 5 people who are paying me.
Yeah, well, and I understand why they do it, they usually do it that way, but, you know, I'm kind of on the PBS model myself that, you know, I don't want people to be denied any information just because they may not have any extra money to spare.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is I also am fully aware that we're all broke as hell. Like, a few of us running around have a little bit of money, but most of us are just like on the verge of like, if anything goes wrong, I'm going to have to ask for a GoFundMe. So I also don't want people to feel like they have to pay me to see things, because it's like, look, you don't have the money, sweetheart. Please do not hurt yourself. I would like money. Money is nice. My goal is someday to have enough money coming in that I can buy myself a pizza every month. But, you know, you also need to be able to buy a pizza. You also need to have like a roof over your head and like, you know, water and all of that fun stuff. I get it. Don't pay me unless you have it. I appreciate it, but don't pay me unless you have it.
Okay, so I finished.
Quite honestly, I was truly surprised that our moving fundraiser actually met the goal. I never thought that was going to happen. You know, I thought we'd be able to get some help, but yeah, I didn't really think that so many people were going to be able to.
Yeah. What were you about to say, PK?
So you said it was the Plan of Salvation is what you were calling it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you do is you put one as the Plan of Salvation, and then you put the next one as Scheme for Preservation, Idea of Conservation, and basically you just synonym the three words, and no matter what they do, they get the same thing.
They probably would actually find that hilarious. I think I might do that just to see the reaction. I have a few people who are my patrons do have that sense of humor. I might do that next month. Thanks. I love that idea. Amiga Nuts said, and I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to ignore you. I just can't talk and type very well. My brother and his wife described it as the Book of Mormon is the history, and they follow the King James Bible. Okay, the Book of Mormon is kind of is considered a history. It's considered by the church as a history of the United States before Columbus. So that part is true. They do use Book of Mormon verses a lot. They rely on the Book of Mormon verses more than anything else. The Bible feels like it's an afterthought that they include just so that when they try to reach out to Christians, they can say they use the Bible. But honestly, I didn't see a lot of Bible when I was growing up. Once every 4 years, we would spend a whole year on it in Sunday school. But I don't really... Like, there's a few verses that they use every once in a while, but they don't really do it. If you want the meat and the heart and, like, what Mormon doctrine really is, read the Doctrine and Covenants and the Pearl of Great Price. Those are where you're going to find the actual doctrines. And the reason that they don't want you to know about the Doctrine and Covenant and Pearl of Great Price is because the really questionable shit isn't there. If you read the Book of Mormon, and I've had people argue with me on this, but if you read the Book of Mormon, it actually outright states that some of the things the Mormon Church does is actually an abomination to God. The Book of Mormon is actually kind of anti-Mormon. And you can read the Cliff Notes and get what you need without having to read the actual Book of Mormon. But if you want a deep dive into what Mormonism truly is, go read the Doctrine and Covenants. And it's probably slightly more entertaining to read the Doctrine and Covenants. Because I've read the Book of Mormon, it's dry.
I've considered going and reading it just to know what it's about, but yeah, reading's a bit of a chore for me, even when it's something I enjoy, so it's hard to push through something like that.
That's one of those things. That's one of those things I said on Neil's stream when he was interviewing me. Was like, I don't go reading these books. That's what you guys are for. You guys tell me what.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that with politics. Like, I know exactly what's going on in politics. I don't have to go looking for myself because I have friends who are involved and they tell me everything. And I'm like, thank you for torturing yourself so I don't have to.
Well, I mean, and when I say that, I also point out, like, if somebody tells me something and I think it's fishy, I'll go look it up. I'm not just going to believe somebody like carte blanche, but like, like the lusting verse in the Bible. Yeah, I've got no reason not to believe that it's actually in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually do want to go through at some point and I'll probably do it through live stream because it'll be better than edited video. I'm not going to read the entire Doctrine and Covenants because there are parts that just are kind of like, that's the same as every other Christian sect, whatever. But I want to take like the worst bits of the Doctrine and Covenants and like the Mormon only bits and be like, hey, you know how you've been told to read the Book of Mormon and you think that's what the Mormons believe? Well, not quite. Also, I know that you're having trouble reading, Perp. Bionic Dance says, okay, my mental image based on your voice wasn't too far off.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm having trouble following the side chat because the only way I could get a camera to work for this at all was doing it on an old laptop.
Atheist Edge asked if I had talked about the racism against darker skinned people yet. The BOM used to have a white and delightsome verse, but they took it out. That verse hasn't been taken out. They made it sound prettier, but it still says the same thing. It's still there. And the Mormon Church also released manuals this year for the Book of Mormon because that's what they're studying. and when they approved it, they put the original meaning of it back into the Sunday school manuals, and then told everybody to act like it didn't happen. And I know this because my dad is a Sunday school teacher.
Yeah, that's the number one attitude problem I have with my family. Is that
like
attitude that, well, if we don't talk about it, it never actually happened.
Well, a lot of Mormons convince themselves of that pretty well.
Yeah, my family's been good at convincing themselves of that too, and that's like, yeah, that's about half of my personal history are things that never actually happened then.
Yeah, and also, and I'm not saying that the Book of Mormon is something that you shouldn't know about if you're dealing with Mormonism. I'm just saying you can fucking read the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah.
And like get what you need. Because there are some things like the racism is definitely in there. There's a couple of other things that are doctrine that are in there. But it is not the basis of their doctrine. It's just the floor show. It's what they show you to pull you in, to reel you in. And there's actually verses in there that say some of the things that the church does and is an abomination. It says in one of the verses, it says that polygamy was an abomination to the Lord. And yet, polygamy is a huge part of Mormon culture, whether they want in history, whether they want to admit it or not. And it uses, and the thing is that I couldn't believe it until I saw it, but I had somebody tell me that they used almost the exact same wording in the Book of Mormon and then just changed one or two words in the Doctrine and Covenants. And basically one said, I think it was Solomon, I think. It said, in the Book of Mormon, it said, Solomon chose to have a bunch of wives, and that was an abomination to God. And then in the next one, and then in the other one, it says, well, Solomon was a great guy, and he just happened to have a lot of wives so that he could create more children, and it's okay. God liked it. So did God hate it or did God like it? Like,
yeah.
It's the exact same situation and almost the same wording.
I mean, isn't that? I mean, it's just when you say that that's the way that they behave and the way that they think about things. I'm like, that is so 1984 or whatever the heck that movie was with the state and they had to deny what they'd seen to say what the state wanted or something.
Yeah, 1984, based on the George Orwell novel.
The thing is that unless you read the Book of Mormon all the way through and you process everything that you're reading, you're not going to catch that because there's no way in hell they're going to have you read that particular verse out loud in Sunday school. And then, with the history of polygamy that they've got, there's no way in hell. I don't remember ever reading that verse in Sunday school. Hell, I was in 19 years and I didn't hear about that verse until I was out. Mm-hmm. I had seen the verse that said Solomon had many wives and that it was approved by God for the spreading of Israel's seed, essentially, is I think how it's worded. But I had never seen the one in the Book of Mormon. Because they cherry pick and make sure that you only see certain things so that you don't put two and two together. And unfortunately, for some people, even when you do put two and two together, it's still not enough.
Right.
Yeah. When I was growing up, just Bionic Dance was saying that, I can't even imagine going to Sunday school. And when I was growing up, what we wound up having was like one day a week after school we got bused over to the Catholic Church for the catechism classes. So it was, after a full day of school, then we get an extra 2 hours of classes about the religion, on how we should, the things we were supposed to do to get confirmed to be adult members of the church type thing.
Yeah. Also, Atheist Edge says, well, that's intellectually dishonest. They seem so well adjusted, but there's a dark underbelly. That's actually built in. A lot of the rules are to make Mormons look polite and nice and kind people, and many of them are. In fact, I would argue that most of them are. Mm-hmm. But they give off that clean image so that you won't realize all the bullshit that they're doing. And even to their own members. Because I remember something that I was taught was don't have the appearance of evil. And it was basically like, don't go to Starbucks, not because you might order the coffee, but because that looks bad. Don't get a root beer that's in a glass bottle because it looks like you're getting beer. And they give all, and it's all to create a PR image that they can use, because most of the time when people think about Mormons or talk about Mormons, their idea is, oh, nice people, a little weird or very weird, depending on how much you know, but nice people. And they use that to make it not seem so bad.
That was pretty much the impression I had of them, until I got on the internet and wound up talking to some ex-Mormons.
Unlike Scientology, that everybody pretty much knows how terrible Scientology is and rips on Scientology. And yes, Scientology is bad, and we shouldn't let it get as bad as Mormonism. But the thing is that and also the funny underwear jokes. I love a good funny underwear joke. I really do. I find them hilarious, especially now that I'm out and that I never had to wear them. But if all you're focusing on is the funny underwear, you're missing the fact that the underwear is basically a control mechanism where they're telling you what you have to wear to bed. So, yeah, I heard boyfriend in the background. And like I said, I enjoy those jokes. It's part of my coping mechanisms. Part of several of our coping mechanisms. But the fact of the matter is they have so much control over a good portion of their membership. Not all of them, but a good portion of their membership, that they'll just go along with, this is what you do in your own damn bedroom.
Yeah, well, and that's what, makes it seem much more of a cult, is just that level of control that they exercise over the individual members.
Oh, yeah.
The kind of minute details they get into everybody's life.
Yeah. And, stuff like my parents, when I was growing up, wouldn't even watch a rated R video, not because I was there and because they had children in the house, but because the church told them that you can't watch rated R videos. Songs that had too much sexual references were not allowed. You can't get away completely from it, but mostly what I grew up with was either gospel music or a little bit of country, or mostly Motown, like 50s and 60s music. Imagine being an adult and you're listening to that not because that's what you like and what you prefer, but because it's verboten, as Kate put it a couple of minutes ago, to do those things. You're a grown-ass adult, and you can't choose whether or not to watch a rated R movie because your church is telling you that you can't watch it. There's a reason that I didn't stick around for very long once I became an adult.
Well, and even on a
multiple
much
reasons.
wider scale, that's one of the problems I have with Christianity. You know, is all the references to God the Father, but it's like they want to keep control of people through their entire lives. When actually a good parent is supposed to be preparing the kids to handle the world out on their own without them.
Oh yeah, you're basically taught to be dependent on the church.
Yeah. But that's
you're
any system that tries to breed you to be dependent your entire life. That's a flaw right there. You know, they should be teaching you how to be able to live independently.
Scientology may be worse to its membership, but I think the thing is that Scientology has not got the amount of influence and money that the Mormon Church does. Do I think that in a few years it will rival the Mormon Church? I think it might, but people don't realize how much influence is actually there with Mormons. For instance, and I'm giving a trigger warning because we're talking about something about Brett Kavanaugh, but there were 30 people, I think, that were voting on whether or not to put Brett Kavanaugh in the place of Supreme Court Justice. 5 of those 30 people were Mormon. Now, that's not a majority, but that is a lot of people in that situation.
It's a significant percentage for such an important decision.
Yeah. So, and also the church, I used to say they have around $100 billion. I was wrong. I'm pretty sure that, and I used to think that 300 billion was a large number for the Mormon Church, but I'm beginning to wonder if them finding 100 billion stashed away in just one arm of the church. I'm wondering if they actually have 300 billion in assets, and that's billion with a B, not an M.
Mm-hmm.
They have had multiple press conferences with Trump. They are in bed with Trump. I promise you they are in bed with Trump. Because it's a mutually good situation for both of them. They'll tell you they're not, but they are.
And Trump doesn't care. Trump's interested in anybody who will stroke his ego and give him money.
Yeah. Well, and Trump's ideals for money align with theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So while, yes, Scientology is dangerous, and I'm not trying to downplay it, and Scientology may be even worse to its membership, when people bring up Scientology and decide that that is all we should focus on and don't worry about the Mormons, that's where it get kind of iffy. Because it's like, yes, we should help people who are in Scientology and make sure that they don't get worse than they already are. But the Mormon organization is not just a bunch of nice people. In fact, I wish somehow, and I know it's not ever going to happen, that the Mormon Church would just crumble, because there's no reason why a church organization should be able to stash $100 billion into a particular arm of the church and just leave it there. There's no way. They should not have that kind of money.
Imagine what it would be like if they took that money and actually did what they said they were going to do with it. Help people.
Yeah. Yeah. They could actually give people, if there were the amount of people that are in the church that they say there are, which there aren't, they really inflate those numbers. They could give every single member $1,000, just straight out $1,000, and say, do some good in the world with this, and still have enough, and still have billions of dollars. I don't remember the exact calculation, but there is so much they could do with that they refuse to. And it's basically the guys at the top just amassing all of that money. And if you don't think that they don't throw them into politics, you're wrong. In fact, they've been fined for it a couple of times. And they use that money to they use that money for lawyers. They use that money for politics. They use that money to put people in influential places. They use that money to make themselves look good. It's really, really bad. And I'm hoping that Scientology is never allowed that kind of a foothold. Because, yeah, I do watch Scientology to a degree, too. I don't understand it as well, but I realize that they're trying to build momentum. Because they're actually a tiny organization. They're not nearly as big as they make themselves out to be.
I think the thing with Scientology is mostly just that it's so recent, that the speed that it grew after being, seeded.
Yeah, because I was surprised. I expected Scientology to have more money than it does, but their assets only equal a couple of million. Not even $1 billion, just a couple of million. And they're in Hollywood, which means they do have access to media. But comparatively speaking, the Mormon Church has more land than Disney World here in Florida, and actually has enough land and resources to build a city from the ground up that can house 500,000 people easily and comfortably.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Just how much of the state of Utah do they own?
I think it was like 70%.
Yeah, it sounded something like that. I couldn't remember what I had heard. But
Amiga Nuts, you know your brother and your sister-in-law better than I do. And they may not be bad or corrupt people. I can't make that determination because I don't know them. They might just be pulled in by the way the church looks. Or, I don't know their situation or why they're in the church. Because there are people that I adore in the church. In fact, there's times where I've said to other people that I have people I love in the church who are just too damn good to be in that organization.
And that's the problem with a lot of the religious organizations. It's often hard to weed out which ones know it's bullshit and are in there just to profit themselves, and which ones believe they're actually serving a real purpose.
Yeah, and I know people who are in the church for the strict reason of I am visible and I am seen, and by living my life this way, it gives hope for other people. When I say the church, I often don't mean the membership, unless I state it's the membership. Usually I mean the way the organization is set up and the people running the organization. Because there is a stark difference between Nelson up at the top with all of his billions, who's basically pushing everybody around, and the person who believes in their heart that they are doing the right thing and they're actually good and decent people. They're just pulled in for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, and again, I can relate that personally to my family, that you know, I finally, the only way I was ever able to make peace with my father was that he did a lot of things that really fucked me up. But there was never anything malicious there. He always did what he believed to be the right thing. It's just he had been taught a lot of fucked up ideas about how to raise kids.
Yeah. Yeah, and I got a lot of fucked up ideas, but I know my parents loved me, like, I know they love me. That's half the reason why my dad still goes, is he thinks it's the best way to keep me in the afterlife.
Yeah.
As fucked up as that is.
Well, you know, and I can see that psychologically that must already be quite a toll on your father, that he's got to be feeling at some level he's choosing between spending the afterlife with you or with his wife.
Yeah, and that's essentially what it is he is scared that if he screws up anymore, because the Mormon church teaches you that if your kids wander away, it's your fault. So he feels like it's his fault that I'm not going. He must have done something wrong. And it's like, no, you didn't do anything wrong. I just refuse to put up with abuse. If you're gonna, I was in an abusive relationship with the church. I watched them abuse my little sister. I watched them abuse him. I can't even pretend to be okay with that. And to them, they don't see it as abuse because they downplay at church. The culture downplays what abuse actually is, so that you think that all of these things are just how the world works and that it's normal, and it's not. Now, granted, all of these things do exist in other places in the world. It's not just a church thing, but basically you're taught that, you can handle whatever is dished out at you and that you should just keep coming. And I was just like, there came a point where I was like, I cannot do this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. It took basically me almost dying to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was taught to put up with it.
That's one of those popular Christian adages that I really have a problem with, and my cousin throws at me a lot, is that, God never gives anyone more than they can handle.
Oh, and, yeah. That's
bullshit bullshit. Because to start out with, if that were true, how come some of the shit kills people?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like endure to the end is something that they keep telling us. It's like, if you just keep enduring, God will reward you. And it's just like, I don't want to be rewarded if that means that I'm going to be so depressed I'm not functioning.
Yeah.
I have severe depression issues, don't get me wrong. I really do struggle with depression, but at least I'm not passively trying to not live. I'm actively getting up and trying to make it through my days, because at one point I basically got to a point where I was like, well, I don't want to get up anymore. And so I didn't. I was sleeping for 15 to 18 hours a day, would get up for a meal, maybe shower, and then just do a little bit of work if I was working at the time, and then go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And that was not a way I could live. And I hate watching my family go back into that environment, but I can't convince them otherwise. I've tried. I'm still trying, but I think I'm basically fighting a losing battle with my dad. I have some hope for my little sister, because she's not been acting nearly as interested. And I don't know whether or not that's her health issues, or if that's because going to church is not nearly as rewarding for her as it used to be. I'm kind of hoping it's the second one, because I can't just yank her out. If I do, that will break a certain amount of trust with her that I need in order to do other things with her.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of secretly hoping that someday she'll just lose interest and I'll be able to fill, because most of the reason she's going is it's an environment she knows, and she can get her socialization in. So I'm hoping that maybe someday I can replace that with something better. I wouldn't even mind if she decided to go to a different church, depending on what the church was. Because I really have no interest in taking away her God belief. I have no interest in taking away her beliefs. I just want her in a better environment. But again, I can't yank her out like I wanna.
Well, no, that's, you can lead her, but she has to make the decision. And, I know especially in her case, that's a very tricky thing, is, maybe not quite the same level of decision-making abilities as some people. Sorry, I'm not sure how to put that.
Yeah. Bionic Dance is like a better environment, so like Hawaii. I don't know. She might like Hawaii. They have lots of sea critters there. She likes the ocean and water. She's the complete opposite in me in that way. Me, I'm like, I like water for shower and baths. I will never leave the shower or leave the bath. But any other form of water, I'm like, big no. But I wouldn't even care, like, if she went to one of the Southern Baptist churches here. Like, it's not, I'm never going to get perfect with her.
Yeah.
Just something that's not, something where she can go on Sunday and do her worship thing and then come home and have it not control the rest of her life.
Well, and, honestly, that's even for as long as I stayed in the pagan community, that was a lot more because of the socialization and the sense of community, rather than anything I actually believed in.
Yeah.
I had a kind of set of very vague beliefs that went along that line, but it wasn't like I was really attached to anybody because of the beliefs.
Yeah. And I honestly don't know how much she believes or doesn't believe. She's not the most verbal person on the face of the planet. I have to do a lot of guesswork with her sometimes. She's partially nonverbal. And a lot of times I have to read her facial expressions and her body language, because she's not going to be able to verbally say, hey, this is a problem. Usually by the time she says that, she's already in serious trouble. So I have to kind of know how to read her. And on this one, it's been difficult to read. Partially because I don't go to church with her. I refuse to, at least for right now. If she doesn't leave the church, I am scared that I am going to have to wind up being in the building with her. Because I don't trust them with my sister at all. I don't trust any of them with her. I trust my dad with her because if something goes wrong, he will be there and make sure she's okay. But when my dad is gone, if she continues with the Mormon church, I'm going to have to break my no contact thing that I've asked for and be in the building with her. And that's going to suck. But I'm kind of hoping it doesn't come to that. Glover Mom said, my son I made go until he was 18 because he just didn't want to give up 3 hours on Sunday. He has never been very social, and I thought he could at least be with boys his own age. Yeah, and a lot of people actually still go to the Mormon church for that reason too, is they want the socialization, or they think that it's a good place for their kids to be. And while I personally think that there's better, I also completely understand the socialization aspect of it. There are certain socialization aspects of it that I kind of miss. One of the big things that I miss is the potlucks we used to have on Sunday. Because my ward, what Mormons call their congregation, my ward had damn good food. Like, I've heard people complain about potlucks because they're like, the food was always crappy and blah, 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 blah. We had stuff like lumpia, and there was a woman who would roast a pot roast with like all the trimmings, and like people would hand bake cakes and bring them in. They, like, and there would be people who would bring in, stuff from Publix or something. But like, so much good food. And just sitting in the cultural hall and watching the kids run around and listening to a little bit of music, and like I'm not too big on being super social, believe it or not, but that was something that I enjoyed once a month, of just like hanging out and listening to people and like watching the kids play and having the food and just, I miss that. It's hard to find that outside of a church. You can, but it's difficult.
Have you ever thought of trying one of those Unitarian churches?
I've thought about it, but the thing is that it would be difficult for me to get to the one that I know of here. The buses run on Sunday, but they run on a really odd schedule. And I would have to leave my house probably about 2 to 3 hours earlier than the actual church service. And then wait a few hours after church for another bus, at least until I got to know somebody and well enough to feel okay in a car with them.
Yeah.
And I just, that's a lot for me. I don't like having to be there so early, because a lot of these churches don't even open up really until about an hour before services. And I looked at the neighborhood where the Unitarian church is. There's really not a lot of places to go to entertain myself while I'm waiting either. So I've thought about it. I might try it at some point, but there's a lot of moving parts there that just, Yeah, I just saw what Kate said. Unitarian and Universalists are overreaching. You should try Unitarian Galacticist Church first.
Well,
I'm not repeating what Kate said.
What? So she said earlier, she said somebody hand-baked cakes?
Yeah.
The funny thing is, every time I read her comments, I hear it in her voice.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
And they don't work without Kate's voice, because they don't work without Kate. Other people have tried to make those jokes. Diana keeps trying, and it's like, no, Diana, honey, no, nice try, sweetheart, but no.
Diana's getting better. Once in a while, she hits one.
No, Diana.
Yeah, but okay, I think about time I should be wrapping this up here.
All right.
Well, Tria, do you have anything coming out soon?
Yep, on my channel on Thursday night at 7, barring any technical difficulties, and I promise you there will be technical difficulties. I am going to be talking about the additions to the Mormon Handbook that include the transgender sections and how they're dealing with that. I have asked Callan to help me, even though she's not ex-Mormon. She is very well researched. Knows her shit. So, and also, again, like I said earlier, I don't want to put any trans Mormons or trans ex Mormons into a difficult position. So that is also kind of why I did that. But we will be, I'll be pulling up the screen and so that people can read along with us, and we'll be reading the new sections of the handbook and talking about how that plays out with trans people. So join us for that. Not the most happiest subject, but we'll try to not make it too torturous. So 7 p.m. on my channel. Come on in for a live stream.
Okay, so that's tomorrow night?
Yep. That is tomorrow night. It is Wednesday. Holy crap.
Yep. And I'll, of course, be doing my midnight stream tomorrow night. And Kitty, you got anything coming up?
No, I don't. I was like, why do you even ask me? I never have anything.
Yeah, once in a while you do.
I think Purple's secretly hoping that you'll eventually become a YouTuber and be tortured like the rest of us.
Well,
That's actually technically how I got started.
Not necessarily that you need to be making your own comment, but, like you did the interview on Neil's channel and that. So,
yeah,
you might be making guest appearances somewhere else.
Maybe. I don't know. I've said it once. I don't know how many other times I could say it. My conversion story was very boring. We ended up spending most of that video talking about Faithless Forum.
Yeah.
That's fair. But I mean, no, seriously, that's actually how I got started. Was Purple invited me to a stream.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody started saying, hey, you should start a YouTube channel. And I fought them for a while, and now I have one. So it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a number of people got started that way. Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming. Glad that nobody was too upset about the face reveal, and I'm not saying I'm going to make a habit of it either, though. As far as being live on camera, I'm probably going to use the avatar most of the time.
That's fair. It's okay. We have blackmail pictures now anyways.
You mean blackmail pictures? We've got a blackmail video.
Yeah, well...
Ooh, shiny.
In order to blackmail me, you have to find something that I would actually be ashamed of.
That is true.
See, and I go by the Dr. Seuss adage of, don't be ashamed of anything you do and don't do anything you would be ashamed of.
Yeah.
And my addition to that is, but my family wishes that I would be ashamed of a lot more and do a lot less.
Well, you're far away from them now.
Yep, and that's what I mean. That, yeah. Now that I'm in a decent-sized city and I don't really have to deal with most of my relatives more than a couple times a year at this point, I can relax. I can be out about myself and everything. And
yeah,
that was the whole point of this, that, yeah, it doesn't matter here if all my neighbors, know that I'm pansexual or, whatever.
Oops. Sorry.
So, I've gone on at times about what I talk about the invisible minorities, that people walking by me on the street, I just look like a typical middle-aged white man and nobody thinks anything of it. But if they had any idea of what my life actually involves, probably 90% of them would find something to object to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jinx.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming. Yep. So,
Bye, all.
Bye-bye.
I need to go and get something to eat, and I know Sloth Girl wanted to go out and do some things, so.
Okay, well, it still says you're live.
Yep, I haven't hit the button yet.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was something
So,
you were about to say something you didn't want to say on air.
Yep.
Sorry.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody. Catch you later.
Bye.